Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Business Builder Workshop for April. On behalf of myself, the Chamber team, our board chair, Darren Harmon, we're excited to have you all here today. Before we begin, I have some amazing sponsors I'd like to thank. They are our ultimate presenting sponsors, Medical Associates, Midwest One Bank, Q Casino, and TH Media. A virtual round of applause to them from wherever you are. They're what helps make events like this possible. I am very excited today. We are having an amazing panel of some great people that if you haven't met, make sure you do. They are going to be sharing the importance of great customer service. And as everyone knows, it has been a rough year, but these are some businesses that have tried new and inventive things to stay relevant and keep their customers happy and keep their businesses going. So it's my pleasure today to welcome Rylynn McQuillen, owner of Fig Leaf, Kevin Scharpf, owner and chef at Brazen Open Kitchen, Kurt Strand, President and CEO of the National Mississippi River Museum and Aquarium, and joining us shortly will be Ben Graham, owner of Graham's Style Store. So to begin, I had sent some questions ahead of time to the panel that they will be answering, but I encourage all of you to please put any questions you have for the panel in the chat, and if we have time at the end, we will try to get those questions to them. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to start with Rylynn, and then feel free to jump in, gentlemen. But the first question is, how has the pandemic changed customer service in general, and how has it changed your customer service?
2020 was definitely something that we didn't expect. I always say that when you're a little retail business, you never know how to prepare for the worst, because in retail, we always say if we could predict it, we'd be millionaires. So it's definitely a different day every day. I think also not only with a COVID year, but with a political year, things are always a little bit more, not tumultuous, which this one was tumultuous, but just a little bit different year. But customer service wise, I think we keep the same platform, but with things like this, you have to go above and beyond. Obviously, with stores being shut down, things like curbside service, or for example, we had a gal. Do you want me to answer this one right away?
Go, you share what you want.
Okay, but also prepping your team too for even just for example, one of our girls lives on the west side of town, and she said, hey, you know what, I'll just throw that in my car on the way home and I'll drop it off at her house. And this gal was so appreciative. So I think you kind of have to look at what you usually do and then kind of tweak that from there, and kind of almost make a new platform, or not platform, but a new list of ideas that what you're going to
do. Great. Kevin, Kurt, from your perspective, being a restaurant and being kind of an attraction, what are your thoughts on how the customer service has changed? Oh, Kevin, we got to unmute you. All right, try again.
There we go.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with Rylynn anymore. Like the restaurant industry, just like retail, I feel like we all shared very similar challenges, and I think for us, the first thing that we needed to do was just make sure that we not only understood the situation the best we could, but understand, our guest and the customer and what their needs might be, even though it was a very two-lane road. This is a very challenging thing to handle, because we had people on very opposite ends of the spectrum, and we're very firm in those beliefs. And so when you're in hospitality, the number one thing that we're trying to do is make you happy. And when we're trying to make a very, polar opposite thing happy, that can be a challenge. And so what we did is we kind of looked inward and just found a happy medium that we could stay consistent with. And I feel like that was kind of the name to the game for COVID, was consistency, and really doing something at least, well, and continuing with it, and not, waver off of that, if you will. So that's what we did. We just, discussed the challenges in front of us and came up with what we thought were the best solutions, and they changed every day. They told you one day that, masks were coming off, and then 2 days later the masks were coming back, and then they told you, in dining, no dining, outside dining maybe, takeaway maybe, so everything was different all the time. And so we just kept a smile on our faces, and we adapted every single time that adversity was in front of us.
So River
Love
Museum,
that.
sorry about that. River
Oh,
Museum,
oh,
we were closed, and governor closed us for 10 weeks. Spring break, busiest time of the season for us, lost a lot of revenue, a lot of other things. More importantly, how do you connect with your guests, people who are so passionate about what you do when they can't come? And so we put together a team we called the Corona Avengers across corporation, across the organization, trying to get a view of how do we reach these people. And so it enabled us to do things that we wanted to do for a long time, build a virtual outreach program, a variety of different types of videos, et cetera, that could be shared through the community, through the schools, through teachers who were teaching from home, and a variety of things like that. And I think what we tried to do for great customer service was provide what we do in a different way, in shorter bits that are shareable for free, to keep them connected to us, because whenever this thing really ends and they want to come back in droves, and they are coming back often, that they don't forget about us.
Love that. Ben, appreciate you you doing some adapting here for us. The question we have out there is, how has the pandemic changed customer service in general, and how has it changed your customer service?
Well, our customer service, is essentially, we try to keep things, the same in what we've been doing. But for a while there, we were closed for 8 or 10 weeks, and we had to, just kind of make do. And people were calling and buying gift cards, and they were buying things they didn't need. And it's like, wow, all these people, they reached out to me. They want us to succeed. They like our staff. They like everything. I was like, you know what? All those people that touched me, and just kind of made my day that day. How long would it take me to write a personal note to each one of those people who bought a gift card, who bought a sock, like the most zero thing? I said, you know what? After we reopen until it was like May 8th, reopen until the end of the month. Anything in the store, yours, half price. And it was just unbelievable. Like, they had touched me, just like with a note, and like, I'm gonna get a gift card for $200, and maybe I'll use it this year, or maybe I'll never use it, that kind of stuff. So it's just how can I just really appreciate those folks back, and just give them that little touch or connection to, like, wow, this is why I do it here in Dubuque, and this is why I do it with a small business. So we would just really try to do those things, like really just kill it, with fit, or just like a wedding party comes in, and like, oh man, those guys, they got the red carpet coming out. So it's fun to do it that way, because when that's a part of your hospitality sort of minded thing, you're coming into my place, my home. I mean, Rylynn, you agree that man, we just lay it out there for them, and they're just like, wow, this is not corporate. This does not follow a flow chart of, if he says this, I do this, and would you like a bottle of water? It's just automatic. It's very genuine. So that's what we do.
Love that. So kind of in the same point, this is great information from you guys. All of you have some sort of team you work with. How do you teach or train your staff to provide that same quality of customer service to your clientele? And feel free, anyone, jump in on this.
Well, our folks are with us here at the store because they bought in. They like holding their head high about a product that they care very much about. Like, here's just one example. Like, our seamstress, she's a very skilled person, right? I don't want to lose that. And when I asked her to come to work with us, I said, all right, these are the hours that I promise you a week. Sometimes those hours weren't there. And I said, well, we've got some PPP. We have assistants to help keep your hours whole and keep you whole, so you can budget, you can, pay for your things. And just that peace of mind is like, oh man, Ben and Katie, they are doing their best to ensure that we're safe. I'm taking care of my family, but 6 other families. And when you start to think about that way, they feel like that family connection. And that's that's what it is for a small business, to have that family connection. And no matter what happens, Ben won't let me fall. Or if he does, it's because he's dead or something. So.
Ben, very true. We depend on our staff a lot too. A lot of people don't realize sometimes there's a lot of behind the scenes work that you don't see on the front lines of a shop. And this year especially too, we kind of sat down and you know, you sit down, you look at your budget, but we said, okay, even though this was a tougher year for every small business financially, we said, you know what, we made a store manager now. We gave people different shifts, different responsibilities, launching a website, hopefully this Friday. But I'm gonna have, you know, a backroom girl that's gonna be, you know, shipping and boxing and getting things ready. So to play off of that as well, to know they have that everyday paycheck that's gonna be there. So we kind of had to pull and structure our financial to make sure that our staff felt comfortable and financially as well.
You know, I think one thing that I've learned a lot from the experiences there at the River Museum is that passionate people love to talk about what they're passionate about. Doesn't mean they do it right. Doesn't mean they don't sort of only focus on the one animal that they really love and forget about interpreting everything. So we have tour guides and leads who watch and coach and help and provide perhaps other suggestions. We are implementing a customer service training thing this summer, just from a different perspective to get everybody thinking about it. But I walk around and I'm really pleased and impressed because their passion is so much about what the guest is experiencing, that they tend to speak about it in a loving, caring way that excites everybody else about it.
I'd say the
Kevin?
one thing that we all have in common is we are there, we're present, and we can lead by example. So when you're staff, there's no better tool for training than for your staff to watch you do it yourself, and hopefully you're setting them up for success. So for me, it was throughout COVID how we handled every situation, to even as customers come in and maybe we do have small issues with, you know, the new things that we're trying to adapt to, and maybe our customers haven't quite adapted themselves to what we've had to adapt to. And so, you know, just really, first of all, setting the tone for your staff. You're supposed to be the leader and you're supposed to guide them. And so for me and my wife and the management team, it's really, you know, constantly looking inward to make sure that what we're giving outward is the message that we want to not only portray, but we want people to follow and buy into. So.
Love it. So this can be anytime during the pandemic, post-pandemic. What is an example of a time your business went above and beyond for customer service? And I'm going to actually throw it to Rylynn, because Rylynn's actually kind of was my inspiration for this panel because of a story she told me of something she did for a customer during this. So I'm just going to call you out.
Sure. Justine came in. This was, I can't even remember. This was post closure. Still masked everything, but we had a gal. No, I'm sorry. We had just opened up, and I believe it was June. And I had a gal that she called and she said, I just need to get out of the house. I've just been locked up and things like that, but I'm so very terrified to go out yet. And I said, I couldn't agree with you more. We were kind of had the same parallel life with just different things. And she said, I'm just so worried with, you know, do we wear a mask? Is it going to be enough protection? And this is when everybody was still a little bit more on high alert and vaccines weren't even a part of the story yet. And I said, well, how about this? How about we close down and you take your time and it'll just be you and I. And I said, and I'll even, if you're comfortable, I said, I'll even just drink a cup of coffee on the front porch so that we're very, very social distanced. And when you're ready, we'll go from there. And she was so appreciative. She felt so comfortable. We offered things to her that were, you know, and now it's kind of one of those things that you toss around as trying to be an earth friendly person too. Like, oh, hey, here's a glass of water. But wait, now that it's COVID, here's a bottle of water. But then you're like, wait, I'm trying to be good to the earth. So it was very cute. I said, for you, I'll do a bottle of water. So just little things like that made her feel better, you know, wiping things down right away. And she was a little bit immunocompressed, so she didn't, or immunojeopardized. She didn't want to take things for granted for little trips like that weren't necessary. Because if you really think about it, Fig Leaf it was not a necessity. It's a fun store. But at the time, those were things that were not essential things to families or to yourself. But I think a lot of people kind of, as we got into that quarantine, we were all going a little stir crazy where some retail therapy was definitely needed. And she felt really good that we took care of our own, and we said, hey, we'll do anything we can to make you feel more comfortable.
Love that. Gentlemen, you want to jump in here?
I'll just say that I think Ben made a really good point on the last question, and I'm going to twist your question inward versus, because we are in a hospitality service industry and we care so much about the consumer coming in that sometimes you can care so much that you forget to look, at your own core and make sure that, like Ben had said, that you're taking care of your own, and how are you setting your, staff up for success. And so, our story is very similar to Ben's during pandemic of just, making all those hard choices. Small business during the pandemic was, small business can already be difficult, but it made it in a way that it challenged you in every facet of the business, from your employees to just customers, just the business itself. When there is PPP, how can you utilize those funds, not just for the business, but internally, externally, like how can we benefit everybody? And so, very similar story. We had a gentleman who actually got in a really bad bike accident and had to get brain surgery. And what we did is we made sure that he's a salaried member, and we didn't look back at all and said, you are taken care of until the day you are healed and you're able to come back. That's a big thing for a small business, especially for a restaurant where, times can already be tough, and it didn't matter. Like, you don't even second guess a decision like that. And so I commend, Ben and everybody else who make those difficult decisions to just keep your family together as long as you possibly can, because that's the number one goal in any small business, is your health, the staff that you have. And so going above and beyond for them first, before you can even get to the consumer to go above and beyond, I would say is very critical.
That's a really good point. I love that.
I think that's a great
Kurt?
example. Typically, educators are the ones that do interpretation of our exhibits, of our animals, et cetera, but our living collections team jumps in this often. We hired a guy from the Jacksonville Zoo, Mark Beschel, great guy, and I see him daily, well, not daily, but I see him out there often. Backwater Marsh is a big aquarium for us, and he brings out their food, and he does it when guests are there instead of doing it at 7 in the morning. And the other day, he had these little cups, and he's giving them to kids, and as they're feeding them, he's explaining to them what the fish are and what they do and everything else, and you should see their eyes are gigantic. The kids, not the fish, or both. But it's really interesting to see, again, how they want to share their love for these things with the people who come to enjoy it.
Ben, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I guess the thing that I wanted to add is just like it's just sort of like the flip side of where everything was. It's just like we have this drive to care and be hospitable and entertain and things like that. And when we don't have that ability to do that and share that, I mean, man, I just I don't know, it's kind of a tangent, but psychologically it was really hard on me. It's like, wow, all of a sudden, just like all that joy that and just like that relationships and things like that, like I'm not connected to it anymore. And you start to smell, you smell really well, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
But like you're starting to smell your pits, and it's like, is it my breath? What is it? There's something about me, what am I doing to, and so you have this like sort of ego or need to kind of like fulfill it, to be in front of these customers. And oh man, it's just really hard. So I have a tremendous desire to like give a great experience, and I will drive to Dubuque County to out in the county somewhere to drop off a pair of socks that a guy ordered online or he called up at the store. I'll gladly do it, but we didn't have opportunities. So it was an emptiness, and then you were just like, oh man, what am I? And then how to figure out to mask that or whatever to your employees so it didn't rub off. That was a big challenge, and I guess I didn't mask it or whatever, but it's just I think
you gotta like put your game face on.
Yeah, I think we demonstrated to each other, our, like my staff, myself, whatever, like how valuable those relationships are. So that was we wanted to go above and beyond, but sometimes you looked around and there weren't many folks around. So that was kind of a hurt on the inside that I still carry with me a little bit. You know, I'm just like, oh man, that I was hurt. So
Yeah.
You're right. And now going forward too, I mean, there's still some people that are a little bit nervous. It's still an unknown.
yeah.
There's still some people, a very good friend of mine is just, everything is online. She said, I feel terrible. I try to do as much as I can in town, but she's still very, very nervous. So
Yeah.
going forward, I mean, there could be a good population of people that aren't going to be putting that back into the community because they are still a little bit more skittish about what's happening. I mean, not many now that we have a vaccine, but it's definitely, the future is unknown.
Yes, this has really changed the way people will do business anywhere. So changing your business model a little bit is very important. To get off of the pandemic a little bit, you guys know that Hy-Vee is known for helpful smile in every aisle. Disneyland is the happiest place on earth. When people go to your establishment, what do you want them to leave feeling? Do you have a brand or a business or a kind of a customer service model that you emulate, that you want people to remember you as?
We have models from a lot of different things. I think it's creating a knowledgeable citizen, somebody who will understand why conservation is important and those types of things. And we do it through the experiences they get. And there are studies that show that people who feel empathy for fish and animals and other types of things like that will then take action later. So all the things about the great experiences here and the stingrays and all the fun things really is trying to lead somebody into, I call it edutainment, being educated and entertained at the same time and taking some new knowledge with you. Every time you visit the River Museum and Aquarium, you're going home with something extra.
Perfect. Kevin, how do you want people to feel when, besides full, how do you want people to feel when they leave Brazen?
Hopefully, authenticity. Just we've been using the word passionate a lot, and I think that's something that we all have in common is just being able to put your passion out there, whether it's through helping people with clothing or an experience to the River Museum or food. I think we're all equal passionate individuals that hope that when the guests leave our establishments, they not only embraced it, but they remember it, and it's something that draws them back and makes them want to come experience it again. So I think you can usually do that by showing how authentic and genuine of a product you have and how passionate you are about it.
I'll tell you one thing, Kevin. So for Brazen, for us, oops, sorry. We always go for the celebrations, but we always say we go to Brazen on a good day and a bad day. So we're there a lot because we want to say, oh, hey, we got a new patio set. We're excited. So let's go out to dinner. So I think Dubuquers too, I find that they like to do that if they celebrate the good, but they also say, you know what, man, we had a rough day. Let's just go out to dinner. And it's a feel good feeling. And I feel like it just changes your mindset. So I just wanted to let you know that on a personal thing. I think Dubuquers like doing that, but they'll just be like, hey, let's go for any occasion. So that's kind of a good feeling. But to play back for the model, for us, it's not necessarily a model that we follow. It's more of a feeling. And in a way, we call ourselves a museum only because we curate different goods that people come in, and it's kind of like a museum. When they come in, they go, God, there's so many things, every twist and turn, and it's in an 1867 old home, so there's so many little nooks and crannies. So people always say we have to take a second loop. So we always say, hey, we're a second loop kind of store, because you definitely have to go around and see there, there's things on the bottom and below, and so we kind of joke that we're a little tiny museum of goods.
Love it. I would agree with that. You definitely need to take a second look.
Yes.
Ben?
Yeah, I want to be remembered for strawberry rectangles.
Strawberry rectangles.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So Like I have strawberry gum. I really enjoy strawberry gum, and it's like comes in a red wrapper, and it's a rectangle, right? It's delicious. It's really
Yes.
juicy, and it's wonderful. So these kids, like I run into their parents later on. It's like, oh man, you just like Tommy. He loves that gum. You know, he remembers your store. It's like, Dad, that's the red rectangle store. You know. And I was like thinking about it. It's like, oh, that's the stupidest, dumbest, simplest thing. But to create that memory of man, that was fun to be with my parents at such and such a place. I mean, I remember every gumball machine in town that you could scam with like 1 penny and get 2 gumballs out, right? As a kid. And it's like, you know, orange shoe store, and you kind of name the shops. So if you could just give that one little thing to make somebody's day a little bit better, you know, a 7-year-old for being patient, man, I'm going to have red rectangles stacked up behind the desk, ready to pass out.
Going back to everybody's talked about how the importance of having really great employees. Do you have a way of recognizing your employees for going above and beyond?
Want me to jump in?
Sure.
Okay. We kind of didn't have a real big structure of, for lack of a better term, a rewards like program internally. But post-pandemic, just like as we all mentioned, how hard our staff has worked. Obviously, you know, you get like your own in-store discount and things like that, and you know, hey, Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday. But now really showing how your team has really understood that, okay, this is the backbone of, this is the Main Street of America. This is not, this is now it comes down to Main Street versus Wall Street. And seeing them go above and beyond really put us into a different way to say thank you. So I know we kind of got off pandemic, but so now we kind of do like a Figgy Bucks program. So if you do so many things with emails, and then obviously coming up with our website that launches, we're going to be doing that. So there's really cool different incentives for them. Or one day you get like I don't know, it's I don't know, try to figure out what we're still working them out, but it's just a neat thing for them that kind of keeps them interested and inspired. And then also, you know, when you feel good on the inside, you feel good on the outside. So then you kind of portray that into the store as well.
Gentlemen, any of you want to jump in? Anything you do to recognize your staff?
Well, we kind of do try like small, medium, and large. You know, like we try to do like all the birthday cards. At our highest point, we can be just under, I think, 40 staff members, and in a restaurant, that's a lot of part-time, full-time, coming and going. Faces that you think you know, but I think I remember you, but you don't work very often, and so trying to do it in a way that's genuine as well. When they get a birthday card, it doesn't look like it's just been stamped and passed on assembly line. Like everybody signs it and writes something nice about it, and so that's one way internally. If you get like a customer review and they mention your name, that's the best way for us to really know, because it's hard to know service-wise when you're out in the dining room what people are truly experiencing. And it's nice for me to go table to table and hear people say, you know, so-and-so was amazing, they did a great job tonight. Well, then that's my duty to go back and genuinely make sure that I thank them and just tell them, hey, great job, like table 9, you know, really enjoyed your service tonight. And sometimes they just like shrug it off and like, oh yeah, that's great. And then other times, like, it's up to me to really show them, you know, like, no, like that's a really big deal. Like you just made them really happy. And so, you know, a lot of it's as simple as a verbal, you know, just saying great job, telling the team good job at the end of the night. You know, the kitchen team, a closing beer, you know, something so silly. Like you guys can have a Busch Light while we close, like, and they all like go up beers, you know, but small things like that go a long way.
I'd say we do a lot of different things depending on the staff and the time and what happens. So for example, when I came here, we started doing town halls where we would introduce all the new staff. We would celebrate anybody with 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 year anniversaries, shout outs to really great things, and review comment cards from our guests. We get a whole bunch of those, and sometimes they mention the people, sometimes they mention the animals, but we share those things very often. During the pandemic, we went to 2 times a week staff update where not only would we talk about the pandemic, but we talk about great things that happened and call out the people, their names, et cetera, and then people would be able to share and thank them, et cetera. And lately, we've also been sharing our TripAdvisor comments, which often are not by an individual, but they're by an experience. And that is trying to get them to see the bigger side of the impact we have on our community, our guests, a greater area, and people from all over the place. We get guests from 70 different countries. So it's kind of cool for them to see the impact they have, because they don't really realize it when they're just talking to one person or doing an animal, talking to an animal.
And I've also heard that Aquaman behind you sometimes makes an appearance in people's offices for their birthday, which is, that's a staff incentive right there.
Well, it depends on the staff, but yes, it could be.
Ben, anything you'd like to share?
It really doesn't take a lot. It's just like eye contact. It's like, you know what? The other day I mentioned to our guy, Dan, I was like, Dan, I almost hate selling a suit because you organized everything so neatly back here that it's perfect. Good job. Thank you for doing that. I didn't ask him to do it. He just did it, and just little acknowledgments, when customers are having a good experience and wow, you've got, great staff here. And, yes, I'm blessed and I make sure my staff hears it, my customers. It's just, it doesn't take a lot. It's just, I'm not here for a trophy or whatever, but boy, an attaboy feels amazing. You know what I mean? It's just, that it's awesome. So that's what we want. It's just an attaboy and, or attagirl.
Love. All right. We have, kind of bounced around a little bit, but kind of jumping back to the pandemic, yeah, there was a lot of heartache and a lot of unknowns. What are some silver linings you found through this, through closures and masks and limited capacity? What kind of silver linings have you found for your organization?
Selfishly, personally, it was nice to, I don't know if anybody knows, but we recently adopted a little one. So we really got to just be like one-on-one as a family. And that was pretty cool. So there was no meetings, there was no scheduling and payroll and that kind of stuff. Like I said, all the behind the scenes things. So selfishly, that part was really cool to just be home. But then business, it was nice because you kind of reevaluated your structure. You were like, okay, so not only is this going to be tough to get through, and then also being a little shop, then we were like, okay, now is the sign that we need a website. We held it off as long as we could. And I think for us, just because we were a little shop, that a website for me, I didn't like right now. I wish I was like with all of you right now in person. It's so hard for me sometimes. That's why I'm like, oh, I'm glad Ben's right here. But it's like you said, you'd love that connection. So for us, it was always for me, I was like, no, we'll do a website later. So I think now it really, that was our big thing that we were like, okay, if this happens again, or, oh my gosh, everybody's going to Amazon Christmas. Like we were terrified that the fourth quarter wasn't going to be what we wanted. Turns out not only are Dubuquers extremely loyal, they were way loyal for the fourth quarter. I think it kind of, the silver lining, it made people really realize how important we really are, how important Main Street is. I say this all the time about how important Main Street is versus Wall Street. You're not going to get that one-on-one on Amazon. You're not going to get that. Do we need to all order, staples and tape off Amazon? Sure. But you can't get the experience that you're going to get at Ben's. You can't get the sit down to celebrate, the adoption day and go to Brazen and have a cocktail. It's, I think that was our silver lining, is that we kind of said, okay, we have to do the website and then just to get back to where we needed to get that connection.
I really think what the pandemic allowed to happen is a reboot across the board. It allowed you to self-evaluate and almost put everybody at the same starting line all over again. So you didn't feel so compelled to every decision you made was based on what the norm at the time was. And if you were only open until 8 o'clock as a restaurant, but all restaurants are open until 10, you couldn't do that. Like that, just, you're putting yourself at a major disadvantage that maybe you could have done it, but you wouldn't be willing to take the risk. Now You know, I tell my staff this all the time. Everybody is in an equal playing field, and in a good way and in a positive way, but we also get to make decisions that might be a little bit better for us and allow us to rethink what this business model is. And we're talking small tweaks. We're not talking major changes, but just things that can be, you know, better for brain health and hospitality, because we all know that that's a struggle in the restaurant industry. And like, how can we just make this, you know, a better situation across the board? And quite frankly, like, you know, what people can make. You know, maybe we change a little bit of menu pricing, maybe we change a little bit of, you know, pay scales, and we do all these things that you felt like you could never do before because it would have been taboo, and it just wouldn't felt it like it wouldn't have worked. And so it allowed for a major reboot now, and then you see it across the board. Everybody is figuring out like what a new, better lane could be, should have been. And all right, like now let's start the way, you know, we should have been doing this maybe 10 years ago. So a reboot is what I would say.
I love that. I think that is very true and that's applicable to all industries. I think that's great. Ben and Kurt, any silver linings you want to share?
I think there's a lot of silver linings. I think there's a lot of things that we implemented with sanitizing and educational programs and outreach that will carry forward for us. So it's changing us for the better. Things we wanted to do, we just didn't really have time to do because we're very busy, especially when schools are coming and guests are coming, et cetera. But maybe the biggest thing is the impact we have. During the 10-week closure, our staff was really struggling. They missed having people come by. Yes, they had opportunities to do things in the middle of the day, change light bulbs, et cetera, that you couldn't really do. So there were some side benefits to not having anybody around for a short period of time. But more importantly, the excitement of what they do was missing. And one of the best examples I have is our otters gained weight and slept a lot. The snakes were not moving at all until guests came back. All of a sudden, the snakes are very active. And we learned really quickly that they need that interaction. We have educational ambassador animals. So we started having volunteers come and walk them around the limited staff we had in the building so that they would get to see other people and be held and touched. And it's really that side that I found was very interesting. You think the otters don't care about you. They need you. And our staff needs the guests. And that was one of the biggest things I think we all learned. And when the day we opened up, when people came back and you hear kids laughing and honeymooners taking pictures in front of an exhibit, you're like, this is such an amazing thing. Don't forget it.
That happiness, yeah.
Yeah.
Ben?
Well, one of the silver linings was, you know, we needed to redo our website, and so that was done, and we used Shopify as our platform, and so we're able to integrate it to a couple of other channels. But what that's going to do for us, you know, like from now forward, is, you know, a lot of those folks that you know, they live in Milwaukee, they live in Chicago, but they have that Dubuque connection, you know, so when they come home for the holidays, they're going to get Jack's Chicken or Happy Joe's Pizza, or stop down and have a cocktail at Brazen, and they're going to stop at Graham's, or they're going to stop at the River Museum. You know, I want to be a part of that. Like, we need to go and do that. But for the folks that can't, you know, they can reach out and touch us and support us, you know, by going on our website. And my peers have said, you know, if you're going to sell online, you go big or you stay home. And that slow time helped us to go big and to kind of redo our process, and, you know, kind of have like an individual like phone number and call sign or part code for every little piece, every little thing. And it's a total pain in the neck. It's difficult, but, you know, that's the way. Our inventory works for us while we're asleep, or we're you know, having a Sunday off together with our family. So that's been a tremendous silver lining. And I just want to dovetail off what Kurt said. You know, I went back in the tailor shop on Friday, and I said to our seamstress, Janet, I said, Janet, do you hear that? And she's like, yeah. And I said, just that buzz of, you know, commerce and conversation and engagement, interaction. And it just, oh man, it just makes me kind of my hair stand up, you know, when I think about what it means to me now, after after a tough January, February, and early March. So.
That's great. So what advice would you give to other business leaders about providing good customer service? If some organization thinks that they might be lacking, what would you tell them to encourage them to beef it up, so to speak?
A tough one.
You on that?
So
I-
different in a way. You probably have your own model, that you learned from your dad. I learned from my mom. And obviously I was in school with Justine, and we had graduated right as Facebook was like just coming in. Like
So
you had to be a .edu to have Facebook. Like, and Kevin, and it was, so that's kind of different in itself. But I think this is my saying, and you guys can quote it. I always say and I should make it for all social media, but take Facebook for face value. And what that means is, for us, I think a lot of people, especially now in this day and age, they want to see your realness. They want to see that, okay, like we poured a back patio and for Fig Leaf in the back. They want to see that we put our handprints in, and my husband's handprint and my handprint and our little's handprint. But for business coming into it, I think if you're starting now, because it is such a social media world and advertising, you have to know where that boundary is though too, that you want to show a little bit of your life, but at the same time, you have to live in your own moment and not, so that you're not always on display, but it's a balance. You have to show a little bit, but then you also need your own rest and relaxation. And sometimes social media just doesn't have a time clock. And it's like, okay, should I upload that picture and show everybody that we went to the farmer's market? Or is it just a day that we just went to the farmer's market,
7 o'clock on Sunday night. I don't give a shit what color belt you're gonna wear with your shoes. Call me on Monday.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
But so yeah, I guess we let people in more, and it's just trying to find that. But yeah, that's a tough thing. But
email too, and I think the other thing, I don't know if you experience this, I bet you do. There's so many ways to contact you now. There's email, there's Instagram message, there's Facebook Messenger, there's so many things. And for us, we actually launched it, or I don't know if that's the right word, I'm so not techie. But if you put it on our instant message, it just says, hey, you know what? Just call the shop. Just good old fashioned, hey, Rye, do you have that small? Perfect. I'll be by Tuesday. Awesome. Sometimes the back to basics. I think if you're going to launch a new business, back to basics, learn your social media boundaries. And then I think the number one thing, just be yourself. Because if you're not going to be it, and you're going to be programmed and, hi, welcome to Fig Leaf. Like, that's not it. I'm like, hey, welcome to Fig Leaf. It's 3 o'clock. You want a glass of wine?
So a lot of what I'm hearing for you is authenticity and also boundaries.
And also boundaries. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Kevin, you look like you had something you wanted to say.
I was just going to say, just awareness, just remember what the pandemic kind of taught us. Don't be forgetful of, some of these silver linings that we've been discussing. We didn't have these for many, many, many years, or they never happened until the pandemic happened. And so, don't take for granted, what we've learned from a pandemic moving forward, as things might start getting crazy again, and not falling back into our old ways. And so I would say I've been a big kind of preacher of this, probably on this call today, about starting internally, making sure, ask, open the door a little bit. I say, don't kick the door open, just open a little bit of, what needs people have. It starts with happiness within your business, within your company, and then it translates to your guests. So, if you feel like you're struggling to make some kind of, transfer of that energy, you're probably missing where the energy's starting, and maybe just a little reflection of your business. Put it in front of a mirror and make sure, everything is solid there first, and then everything else is natural. Ben's talked about it a bunch, Kurt as well, about, the passionate individuals, and it starts, within the people really enjoying what they're doing, and how you can set them up for that enjoyment. The rest is easy. You don't have to do anything else, because they're already so excited to then, pass that along. So I would say that's where it starts.
So I would say that based on a lot of experiences I've had in different positions and different types of things, one of the keys is building trusting relationships. I've said this to when I ran sales and everything else. I can say no to any salesperson in the world. I can't say no to a friend. Show me that you have my best interest in mind, not your best interest in mind. Ask me questions. Don't tell me what you think I want to know. I remember I was with my wife and we were looking at a car, and the salesman said, well, here's why you want this car. And I said, you haven't asked me a question. How do you know? Actually, I don't want that car. I wanted a convertible in those days. And I find that people sometimes we've heard, they kind of get into the spiel or a way of saying this. We used to hand out here's how you interview a professor. Here's the question you ask first. What text are you using? You can't do that. You got to be yourself. You have to be authentic. And when I step back and see the best relationships that are built here internally with our staff and externally, is where people are asking and doing their best to build trust, but also meet their expectations, not your expectations.
That's great. Well, I'm gonna, at this time, if anybody has any questions, please put them in the chat. And while we wait for some of those to come through, I'm gonna give you each an opportunity to share the best way to get a hold of you. If you guys wanna share your phone, website, location, that's a good way to, like I said, these are some extraordinary people in the community who have, wonderful customer service. So stop by their establishment and see firsthand how great that is. So Kurt, we'll start with you if you want to just share some of the best ways to find out more about the River Museum.
Sure. My email is kstrand@rivermuseum.com. 5 o'clock, many nights you'll find me at the corner at Brazen having an old fashioned. But when you come to the River Museum, if you want, just ask for Kurt. I'm the only Kurt here. And everybody knows me, which is a good thing. You can also call, but the phone system here, you got to hit some buttons and things like that. So it's just easier to email me. And I would be happy to chat with anybody.
And then your website is rivermuseum.com?
Rivermuseum.com. And if you want to see OtterCam, it's rivermuseum.com and click on webcams, and you can have OtterCam up on your computer all day long.
And if you need something just to relax you, make you happy, everyone get OtterCam. It is just a delight.
Yes.
Kevin, if you want to share best ways to get a hold of Brazen or find out more about it.
You bet. Well, our website is brazenopenkitchen.com. You can email, it's the exact same thing, just at gmail.com. You can call the restaurant sometimes on a Friday and Saturday. It might be busy. So I do agree with Rylynn. No, like it is a challenge to filter. I do everything, the social media, all that stuff. So when people are constantly messaging, it's really hard because you want like a very good like response rating and stuff, but sometimes old school is the best. I know it's easy to just be in a car and write a message quick, or just if you want to get a hold of us, calling is great. Email is also fantastic, is definitely the best line of communication, or better yet, just come on down and just stop in and ask if we have some availability. So we'd love to see you.
Just find Kurt having his old fashioned, sit down at his table, be fine.
Yeah, make sure you can say hi to Kurt when you walk in, and then we'll get you a table.
Awesome. Ben, if you want to share the website and information about Grams.
Yeah, our website is very simply gramsbbq.com. And we have a Grams Dubuque on Facebook too, so you can find us that way. My email is, it's a dinosaur. It's btgram@aol.com. But
Okay, I have a Hotmail.
the AOL is so kitschy and cool that I think it's kind of like branding, It's like, yeah, you still driving classics.
I love it.
Yeah. But I think, one of the things that Kevin and Kurt were just talking about, just I guess my one last parting thing about customer service is just like knowing when that water glass is almost empty, or just knowing when just that little thing, and just being in even though the question wasn't asked, Kurt, it's just like kind of anticipating that question and listening to the undertones of the conversation, and just being able to be a step ahead. It's like they're staying at the Julian, and they've left their dress shirt on a hall tree in Chicago somewhere, right? can I press that shirt for you? I mean, they're thinking, in their head, they're thinking, oh my God, we're going to press this shirt, you know, this crappy steamer in the hotel, whatever. Can I just press that for you? Would that make it easier? Oh my God, you do that? And it's just those little things that you can just be kind of a step ahead and just like make a suggestion or make an offering. Man, it's tremendous because when you can read a mom's mind yesterday, okay, this young man, he comes out of the dressing room, right? And he's trying on a suit for prom and other events coming up. And the pants are just a mess. And his dad's looking at him like, man, I'm just going to smack you, you know? So anyways, I undid the pant and I said, time out, foul. I'm really upset at you. And, you know, threw a flag on a penalty flag. And I showed him how to fold his pant. So I showed that young man how to do it. I didn't make his dad have to yell at him, things like that. It's like, well, I'm going to have to show him how to do it. But if Mr. Graham teaches him how to do it, then that kid will learn. So just anticipating those little wrinkles ahead of time. That's the name of the game.
That's great. And Rylynn, do you want to announce the new website that's hopefully coming out on Friday?
We're excited. And then also one more thing too, just because you know me, I'm a chatter. But one thing too is always ask your staff too. Sometimes as a business owner, you get wrapped up in your own role and you know, okay, do this. And on Mondays I do this and on Tuesdays I do this. It was so nice that our manager, she came to me and she said, oh, you know, I feel like I just want more. Like I need more. And she's like, how about I take over payroll? And I was like, yes, you can take over payroll. That sounds awesome. And I was like, and then she's like, and I'll do the schedule too. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. So sometimes as a business owner too, you don't know what you need sometimes. So it's nice to ask them, hey, what do you need? But she brought it to my attention and I was like, oh my gosh, that was kind of cool. And then to play off the steaming of the shirt too. Also Fig Leaf, I kind of want to do a cool thing to advertise this. We are launching our Airbnb. Well, that's another cool thing. It's going to be called the Moonstone Inn. So it's on top of Fig Leaf. But when you have customers that come in, because Bluff Street has so many little shops, we'll say to the gals, hey, if you're still shopping, leave your package here. That way you're not trying to lug every package to every store. And then 9 times out of 10, we'll just drop it off at your hotel room. So a lot of people stay downtown, Julian, the Holiday Inn, and then I'll write your name and your room number. And then we go and drop that off on our way to Brazen for dinner. It is a cool, yeah. So for you guys, you're right there too. But yes, so our new website, it's not ready yet. Like I said, hopefully May 1st. So it's going to be figleaf.shop. And then we are going to assign different emails for each staff member. But for right now, it's figleaf1@gmail.com, but the 1 is spelled out O-N-E. And then same thing, I'm such a phone call person, but even better yet, like Kevin said, just stop on down to Fig and just be like, hey, how are you? Or what's new? Or hey, are you going to get any of this, you know, colored shirt in or whatever? So sometimes it's easier to come in and see me. And like we said, we love being one-on-one with you. So stop in.
Well, we had one question. Feel free, not everybody has to answer this, only if you would like, but it says, do you, there's customer experience trainers out there like the Disney Institute and Ron Ruth. Do any of you subscribe to that as far as, I'm guessing for training for yourself and your staff? Or is it all your training done internally and organically?
For us, internally and organically. We're teeny tiny though.
Yeah, I don't subscribe to that service. I would have to say that some of the biggest customer service and sort of moving our store ahead as far as like how we think about customer service or products and offerings would be connecting with like-minded stores, you know, at clothing shows and things like that. And we didn't have any late in 2020, but we had a few this year. And man, it's just amazing how much energy you bring back from being face-to-face and making eye contact with other professionals in your industry. So that's where the greatest value comes from us. It's just bringing new things back that way.
We have resources from the American Alliance of Museums, the Smithsonian, and from the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. We use those, we do internal training, and then we had a person volunteer for us that also worked and did training at Crescent Electric, who has helped put a program for us specifically to guest experience, since that was what she volunteers for us to do. So we're doing a variety of different things, but all are kind of related to our business in our industry.
All right. Well, that's it. I want to thank all of you so much for taking an hour out of your morning to be with us today. This was great. This was informative. This was entertaining. You guys are a wonderful group of people. Thank you to everyone who joined us this morning. If you are interested in attending any other chamber events, please go to dubuquechamber.com, click the events tab. You can check our calendar of events. Also, feel free to call the office. It's 557-9200. We are happy to help any way we can. Thank you all and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you for having us. Peace
Thanks,
out.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.